Hello, I'm Jenn Wilson, Senior Programmer, and welcome to this Film Independent Presents Q&A for the new Focus Features film called Inside by writer-director Vasilis Katsoupis. Special thanks to our lead sponsor, HFPA, our media sponsor, KCRW, and our virtual screenings partner, Vision Media. And now, please welcome our guests for this Q&A from the film Inside, writer-director Vasilis Katsoupis, producer Giorgos Karnavas, art curator Leonardo Bigazzi, and last but not least, American legend of the stage and screen, actor Willem Dafoe. Hi, welcome everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Jen.
So let's start with Vasilis. Do you want to talk about just what was the inspiration for writing this film, Inside?
I think the inspiration is the city outside here, New York. One of my on my first visits, I was looking at these huge, amazing buildings, skyscrapers, and being from a country that we don't have so high-rise buildings, it came to my thought. I mean, what if someone is stuck in the high apartments of these buildings and create a situation that he cannot escape. So I really like to play with the premise of the Robinson Crusoe, but instead of having the remote island, the isolated island thing, I wanted my hero to be inside one of the most populated metropolis of the world, that is in New York City. So the big difference is that he can see life every day. People passing by, cars, the life of the city. He can experience it, but he cannot touch it. And I think it makes it, his loneliness makes it bigger. So that was my first initial idea. And then it came through working on it, that I needed, a way to find the personality, or to show the personality of the absent one, that is the owner. And this came by his art collector. So the art collection. So his art collection somehow mirrors the personality of the antagonist. So to be a dialogue between my hero and the antagonist, that is the owner.
Was this written during the pandemic, and do you think that you were influenced by the pandemic to write this?
It wasn't written during the pandemic. It was written before the pandemic, but the pandemic made it a bit relevant. But as we talk about it, and with Willem, when we were talking about, it's not the biggest difference between the pandemic and what happens with Nemo. In the pandemic was a collective experience. Everyone was in their, locked in their house. So you knew that your parents are locked in the house. So you. Wasn't a solitary experience, but this is the big difference. Nemo is the only person that is in a lockdown, and everyone else is partying in the streets, maybe. So that's a difference.
We can say it might help audience, resonate a little bit with what the character is going through, of course, because it's right now we have a collective experience on that, but it's.
So, did you have Willem in mind when you were writing the film?
I didn't write the film. That was my idea, and some, they initiate the whole thing. It's written by Ben Hopkins, so it was beyond my dreams to to have Willem think about Willem. I mean, of course it was in my head, but it was like, come on, that's never gonna happen. Yeah, it's but dreams come true. That's the reality is that dreams come true.
And Willem said yes. So let's ask Willem. Willem, why did you want to take on this performance? Have you ever done like a solo piece before, like in theater or in a prior movie?
I have done solo pieces in theater, but never in a prior movie. And this one was very particular. Of course, it was very attractive that there was very little dialogue. I liked that it was very task-oriented. It was about doing things. I liked the fact that the script was basically a blueprint, and with little points that we had to reach, but between those points, much had to be invented. And we were going to make the film in the doing, and which was practical because we were shooting in sequence, given the nature of the degradation of what happens to the monolocale. And it was just a beautiful way to work. And I think even when I read the script, I anticipated those things. I liked Vasilis very much. It was his idea. He felt very rooted to it. I liked the research he was presenting me with. There was a wealth of things that convinced me that this would be a great adventure.
I wanted to ask, because we don't get much insight into who Nemo the Art Thief is, his background. Who is he for you?
He's that guy that you see go through these things. And one thing that I don't want to be glib at all, because really the beauty was, this was sometimes on films, you don't feel like you can prepare. I arrived really with no idea who he was. The only thing the script tells me is he had a cat named Groucho, and he listened to AC/DC when he was a kid. That's it.
Right.
And everything else, his character is revealed through the things that he does. And some of those things that he does, we can't even anticipate because we don't know what they are yet. We don't know until we get in the room and we start this story, we start this narrative of trying to survive. Because as we're making the film, we're really figuring some of these things out because it's conditioned very much concretely by the art, by the objects, by the situation.
So let's talk to Leonardo for a second. This is my first time doing an interview with a curator, as a person involved in a film. So Leonardo, can you tell us what you did on this film?
Yes, it's definitely the first time for me as well, in the sense that when Giorgos Karnavas and Vasilis invited me to curate the art collection in the movie, it was not only about selecting works that would go on a wall, but it was really about building a character. So on the one hand, building the character of Nemo's antagonist. So through the work, you need to perceive his personality, his obsessions, his loves, maybe the encounters he had in his life, which is what happens with every art collection that anyone privately puts together. But at the same time, it was about exploring the idea of what happens, first of all, when the encounter of two different art forms happen. So between contemporary art and cinema, what are the generative possibilities of these encounters? And also what happens when you translate an artwork from a gallery where it's safe, it's controlled? What happens when you include this in a different medium, and what, everything that activates around Willem's acting and interaction with these works, how the works are all of a sudden even practically used in a survival task. So I think that this was incredibly stimulating, and it's still working in my head, the so multi-layered levels of complexities that this involved.
So are the artworks in the film real artworks, or were they sort of created for the movie?
So since the very beginning, the idea was, because Vasilis really wanted this collection to be legit, the idea was to involve the artist in the process of understanding why that single artist, like why that precise artwork, and how would this enter in the narrative of the film. And of course, because as you have seen, some of the works get destructed during the process, we had to negotiate how, some works were replicas and others were original artworks. But even the replicas are actually produced most of the time by the artists themselves. So again, there's this idea of how to negotiate with this connection to a different art form and how you translate that into film.
Willem, there's So there's several scenes, where Nemo in his isolation, ends up creating some works himself on the walls, and that amazing sculpture that goes up to the ceiling. I mean, it's a practical piece, but it looks like an installation piece. Do you do art yourself, and did you have any input into what Nemo would draw on the walls? And
Yes, I did. There was someone that there was an artist in the art department that would sometimes work out some things, like when I'm sketching in a sketchbook. He would prep some of those things and I would finish them. But actually for the drawings on the wall, those are things that were really invented as we did it. And it was a great pleasure to do them, because that really connected me to the story and really made the final connection with the art. And I think for me, it's a beautiful thing to see that it starts out as something practical, and then it turns into something that really, I think, ultimately saves him. That creation, that impulse to create.
so did you save your pieces that you made for the film?
No, because they're destroyed.
Right. So I wanted to ask,
I wouldn't save them anyway.
you wouldn't?
No.
I thought they're amazing. So I think that I read this, for myself, as Nemo's had aspirations to be an artist himself, and that didn't quite work out for whatever reason. For the filmmakers, or for Willem too, do you think there's anything in that, or do you think that this is just spur of the moment, all coming out of Nemo, and he didn't really want to be an artist?
I think it's established that he likes to draw, or he has some relationship to art. And then when you see him drawing as he's watching the security camera, you see it's not like he's never done this before. But I never had the sense that he was an artist. I didn't. And it's not a wrong interpretation. It's just that didn't enter into my head. And once again, it's very interesting when you take a character that's a blank slate like that, and then he's developed through the action. It's beautiful because you don't have to pay off any idea of who he is. He is who he is. You see who he is by what he does. And that's also true of me. I mean, is it me? Is it him? It doesn't really matter. We're having an experience, and it's something very concrete. The beauty is you aren't pointing to things outside of the room. And anytime you make a film, it's so important to deal with what's there. And sometimes the obstacle is you've got to prepare. You have an idea, you prepare, you have an intention, and you have an idea of where you want to end up. And then you get to the place and it just doesn't fit. And if you can't be present and work with the things that you've brought into the room, you're going to probably make something that's really imperfect and not articulate and not organic. But if you really have a relationship with all the elements you're bringing into the room, make a history with them, then when you interact with them, a story unfolds. And it's not a forced story. It's something very natural and something that really touches into the very nature of storytelling and creation and who we are.
Yeah. Yes, I would like to say, may I, on that, because as Willem said that, I really, something popped in my head. We live in a time that everybody has his thoughts already. We visit or we watch things with already some beliefs, and this is very normal for people. And what is very interesting about Inside is that we invite the audience without knowing anything about the character and without having any precondition in the head to react on very simple things. And so that gives a purity on the way you watch and the way you react. It's not that you project. I mean, anyhow you will project your beliefs. You will make a backstory yourself, or you will have the aftermath of the film the way you want to make it. But for me, this is. I mean, it gives a sense of clarity in the narrative. It's very simple. And because it's so simple, very little things can make a very big difference, and it's for me, this is one of the qualities of this film. It's constructed with very simple materials without, when we were trying to finance the film, I remember all the financiers were saying, we need a backstory, we need to know who was the guy. Because whenever you pitch a story, they say, we need to know. No, it's
right.
And it's very interesting, actually, this.
Well, it feels like the temptation must be great to want to explain things. But, when you don't, it's much more exciting, I would say, for a viewer, because you get to put those things in your, I obviously did put many things in myself. I wanted to ask, do you think there's very much commentary on the art world in this?
Do you want me to answer? Yeah. So I think there's definitely a very interesting way to approach the idea of what happens when an artwork leaves the gallery space and enters a private collection. Like, what is our relationship in a domestic environment with the images and even sometimes a very politically charged image as some of the works that are in the collection. And in this sense, I think the film really goes, as Willem was saying, at the essence of the role and what art making is about in our lives. So definitely something that, like, the struggle or what the violence that goes also against this beautiful apartment is also about the idea, in my opinion, of going against this idea of also commodification of art, and like art becoming an asset, or art becoming almost like the heads of animals that hunters used to have on the wall. But this is, the way the collection is built is also to go against this idea in a certain sense. Like, art has a value no matter where you put it, and I think those questions, even, I trust art in that sense, like wherever you put it, those questions in one way or the other, they find their own way to the audience.
I also had this feeling watching it, that it was sort of a metaphor for what an artist does inside themselves to create, which is sort of, isolate themselves, or whatever it is that artists do to push themselves to their limits. And that's what sort of felt like all this amazing work was coming out of Nemo, because he was sort of pushed to the edge. And I really appreciated that about it. What do you hope people's takeaway from the film is? And that's a question for anybody. What do you hope people take away? Do you hope that people have a big takeaway from the film, or you hope that people just enjoy being in the moment and just watching the unfolding of this?
For me, I hope that they will experience our film. It's not just watch it, the experience. I mean, this is a kind of film that we wanted to make, something that you go to the cinema and experience something. But what we really like, and I really wanted for my film to be, is to start conversations and to stick in the mind of the viewer for a couple of days at least. This is how this film made. We give them points, and for the viewer to make his own outcome of this, and to be open to the viewer. And I like when this happens in film. So that's my, I don't know about the other people. That's
so for the ending of this, is the ending the way that you Was it scripted this way, always conceived this way, or did you leave yourselves open to possibly
Yes.
changing the ending if you wanted to?
It was always like this. Somehow it was.
And what is the ending like?
Because
I
we,
mean,
yeah,
everybody has an opinion about it. For us, it's kind of just a feeling, you know. You just open the possibilities for people to think about, and it's we were very much trying to end up in a sentimental,
in a biblical way.
And end up in, you know, to satisfy. I mean, if the people get to the point we want them to get, which is to empathize with Nemo and want this person to find what he's looking for, get free or whatever, to give them the possibility at the end of the film to have this option. Yes, this happened for him, or think something else. And in that sense, I think, you know, it is exactly what we wanted to have as an ending, you know.
I mean, I gave 2 rules to the scriptwriter. I don't want flashbacks, you know, and I don't want twists. So, I mean, it would be it would be a film that could have a twist, but.
Right. I was sort of wondering if it was going to have a twist too, or if, you know, the
This is what I like that the audience, they're waiting for a twist and twist.
Or, you know, that it was all orchestrated by the person that owns this loft, and they were watching via camera somewhere the whole time, and they were going to appear via a screen and be like, ha ha ha, I got you.
But if it was that way, you just watch it once, and then if you rewatch the film, then it ruins the experience. Yeah. Now, I believe you can watch it again, you're going to have another experience.
Yes.
You're going to find other layers in the story, because there are many layers in the story. We weaved a multi-layered experience. So yes,
and there is a lot of things planted in there for people that they want to see very primitive human stories in the film.
Easter eggs,
let's say, but there is a lot of things very deliberately, you know, planted in the story. So if you watch it a second time or a third time, things start to pop up very clearly. We think, at least this is what we have understood from the people who have watched it sometimes. So.
They never shared this with me. I was always in the dark.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming in and talking about this amazing film. I want to go watch it again right now, but I have to wait till it comes out in the theaters. But such a great experience. Also, thank you just, you know, for taking on doing a film, you know, courageously, you know, not exactly knowing everything before you get into it, sort of being open to everything. I really appreciate that approach to the work. So thank you so much to all of you, and good luck with this film. It just opened in Berlin, right?
Yes.
So congratulations, and good luck with the opening of this film in the US.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.